Oh yeah, the Game Leapers, what's going on guys? This is Coach Eeks, and in today's video, we're going to be getting into the 10 underrated, well not even underrated, just like outright broken builds for patch 13.15. And I've tried to include champions that aren't like full S+ tier. Some of these will be, of course, because in order to be the best champion, your build has to be really good as well. But some of these champions, yeah, like aren't played probably enough as they should be. So hopefully some of you can pick them up and abuse them, while other people abuse the most picked and banned champions. But guys, like these builds, they're not actually really gonna like help you improve the game, which is the most important thing. Like if next patch, you know, another build becomes popular on your champion, you're probably still going to be in the same elo because you play that champion at the same level still. These builds don't change how well you CS, but they don't change how well you play your champion, right? You're still going to be seeing the same patterns and therefore missing patterns and making suboptimal plays compared to players in Challenger on those champs. So if you actually want to know what Challenger players do that you don't, we point out everything, micro, macro, whatever it is, on our website, on our videos that are updated daily by our Challenger players and coaches from around the world. So all you have to do is sign up to get exclusive access to a massive library of content that thousands of summoners froth every single day. So those links are down below, and let's get into the 10 builds for 13.15. First of all, we're going to start in the top lane here. And the first build I want to discuss is a Riven setup that I think is actually super OP. Because this champion has received so many buffs in Season 13 and in recent times, she's so strong innately right now, and because of the buffs to Black Cleaver not so long ago, and also Duskblade, those two items are comprising this setup. So what you're doing on Riven is rushing Ravenous Hydra for the stacks, get a 40 stacks here, you'll be one-shotting anyway, but when you have Serrated Dirk, and then when you upgrade this of course to Duskblade, bro, like the damage you deal is kinda nutty. And I think it's really good as well in teamfights because of the invulnerability you get when you get a takedown, and because the meta at the moment is very engagey. As Riven, when you capitalize on your teammate's CC, you can get pentakills as easy as any other champion in the game. The reason why we get Black Cleaver as our third item is for attack damage that it gives us because that got buffed not so long ago, and also because of the ability haste. This is so important, and yeah, if you are versing a tank in the top lane, because Ravenous Hydra doesn't really do much against them, Duskblade definitely doesn't do anything against them because lethality really falls off against armor. That's why Black Cleaver is so important as your third item. You can see that in Emerald Plus with this build, it has a 75% win rate, and in Master Plus, it's even higher than this. So make sure you guys, if you're going to play Riven, try this out. Now coming in next, we have Rumble. So if you want to play an AEP top laner, this could be one of the most OP setups on the Rift right now. And because of all the Rumble changes not so long ago, the build is pretty much just AEP Bruiser Rumble with Night Harvester. So all you're doing is rushing Sorcerer Shoes, because in the top lane as Rumble, it's very important to have movement speed right, because you are very gankable. But also this allows you to space the enemy champion perfectly with your Flame Spitter. And if you are to land one of your Electro Harpoons, you can capitalize, go in there, deal damage, and get back out pretty easily. Then what you want to do is get a Demonic Embrace. Because in the top lane, lots of champions will have HP, Demonic Embrace is so valuable. Also because of the changes to Rumble recently, where you're going to be dealing damage based off of HP, the Azakana Gaze passive is so useful now. So this has been a really healthy change for Rumble, and in the top lane, he is definitely one of the strongest champions. You might have to be careful of versing champions like Cannon or even Darius, right? Because you can never really get close to them, but apart from that, especially with the engage meta as well, just like Riven, that's where Rumble and his Equalizer, you can really shine. So Rumble top with the Bruiser setup with Demonic Embrace is also on this countdown. Now the final top laner to discuss here, guys, is a champion who got buffed in 13.15, this being Yone. And you might be like, well, why would I want to play Yone top lane, like surely in the mid lane? Well, statistically speaking, in Master Plus, Yone has a much better win rate top than he does in the mid lane. So in over 900 matches, to have over a 53% win rate, that is legit. And that's all thanks to your early game getting buffed, because your W, your Spirit Cleave, is protecting yourself where you're just getting a bigger shield, right? So when you time this properly against the enemy champion, you can block a lot of their damage and also deal a lot in return because you have more HP essentially. Now if the enemy top laner is smart, they might know this and try to play around your shield. So just be really aware of that. When you see a Teemo dart come at you, press your W. When you see a Jax about to jump onto you, press your W. So you have to be a little bit preemptive with this, but it helps you out so much. As far as your build goes, this was the same last patch, but it's about going Berserker's Grease as your first item, because the attack speed and movement speed is really important, and then getting a Kraken Slayer into Infinity Edge. Because of the extra crit now in Infinity Edge from a couple of patches ago, this has really benefited Yone, and the damage you deal is kinda nutty, and the DPS of course. And after this, you can go Hullbreaker. If you think the only way to win a game is through split pushing, you can go Shield Buff, you're going to be team fighting. There are so many options after this, but the core with Greaves, Kraken, and then Infinity Edge, it's really pog. Now moving into the jungle, we have 4 champions to discuss here. The first being Talia. So for Talia in the jungle, because you're dealing extra damage to monsters now with your Unraveled Earth, this has helped your clear. And also you can see that in close to 1,000 games in Master and above, this champion has close to a 52% win rate. But when you do actually go this rune page right here with First Strike and then going Eyeball and Treasure Hunter, what this is about, and even Footwear, is saving gold so you can get to Luden's Tempest ASAP. Sorcerer Shoes, guys, for the most part, I think it's a big bait. Just get to Lost Chapter, just get to Luden's Tempest. You have movement speed enough anyway, you know, when you get Footwear and also with your ultimate, you should be able to get around the map and not feel like you need any movement speed from maybe Relentless Hunter or from getting Sorcerer Shoes as your first item. So Luden's Tempest first, Lost Chapter is only 1100 gold, and when you have Futures, Burst Strike, and also Footwear there, so you're saving that gold, you'll get it so quickly, and yeah, because of the extra Q damage as well you're getting, Talia is in a really great spot at the moment. Also a really good flex pick, and you do so well against so many champions, especially in solo queue, with dashes, because your E will stop them, right? So Talia in the jungle, watch out for her in 13-15. Now another AP jungler, if you want to play a bit more of like a tankier champion in the jungle, then Lilia, not going Demonic Embrace and Leandries, I'm talking about going Rod of Ages into Demonic Embrace. This setup with Rod of Ages or a Rod of Ages Rush is really OP for Lilia because of the stacking you get, and remember, as Conqueror Lilia, you will be stacking for eternity in fights as long as you're kiting around the enemy champions. There's also some tech here with the actual jungle item you get. If you look here, guys, for me, the Moss Stomper Seedling, if you start with this and without a health pot, you can start with a health pot if you're against something like a Kindred or a Graves, some early game aggressive champion, but for the most part, if you think you can navigate your way out of the early game for free, getting the Green Smite is so useful because you're really playing Lilia with Roa and then Demonic Embrace and even something like Zhonya's after this to annoy the enemy team and just to bait cooldowns onto yourself, dealing consistent damage and trying to kite around their abilities. This is proving to be a really good setup, and maybe the key to it all is to take Overheal here because of how it synergizes with the max HP and your stacking. It's such a broken build, and I'd highly recommend trying this out if your team needs a bit of AP. Now next jungler, if you want to play something AD in the jungle, then you really can't look past Bel'Veth, who might be the strongest all-around jungler, to be honest. So for Bel'Veth, lots of people might be going Blade of the Rune King, maybe even Gunsu's is in there, but what you want to be doing, guys, is going Kraken Slayer into Stride Breaker. These two items form your core, so Kraken Slayer not only for the Noon Quiver Rush Ride and DPS, but when you get to Stride Breaker, the slow from this and also the 60 attack damage this is still giving you, which I think is still nutty. I can't believe they haven't actually like kind of hotfix nerfed it, maybe reverting the AD by like 5 or something. So you guys can abuse this while it's still in the game. After this, you can go Black Cleaver. If the enemy team's very tanky, you can go Wit's End. If they have a lot of magic damage, right, it just depends on who's fed and the items you need to beat the enemy team. But with Kraken and Stride Breaker, you can see the win rates and higher elos, and I haven't actually like put in here and lower elos because the win rates are still super high. So in higher elos, you can see it's around like, you know, 65-70%. These are legit, and it's been the same for the last few patches. But Kraken Slayer Stride Breaker Bel'Veth is super good too. Now the final jungler to discuss here, this surprisingly enough, and it kind of surprised me in a way just how good this champion is, but it has been that way ever since Trinity Force got changed, right? And for Viego, look at his win rates for me in higher elos. So in Master Plus, in close to 250 matches, he has over a 13% pick rate, by the way. He has over a 55% win rate and is classified as an S plus tier champion. The reason for this is literally Trinity Force, and after this you can go Steel Caps, Merc Treads, depends what the enemy team has, right? And then following that up with a Black Cleaver. The tankiness you have is actually pretty hard to kill you because of the HP you've got, right? And because of the actual on-hit damage with the Spell Blade from Trinity Force and attack damage as well that gives you because they buffed that as well, and then the buffed attack damage from Black Cleaver, you shred everyone and still one-shot squishies. And also you're notoriously hard to kill, especially with the engage meta as well. Viego really loves it, especially in higher relos, right? Because lots of people are picking engage supports, so Viego complements those team comps a little bit more. Maybe you want to type something in chat like CC Pref. In Champ Select, just be a little bit careful about that. But Viego, guys, is the final jungler if you want to pop off in 13-15. Now moving into the mid lane here, I've only got one mid laner. Now you could play something like Talia in the mid lane, of course, but a bit like Yone in the top lane, guys. We can't mention Yone without mentioning his half-brother Yasuo, because like I mentioned on our previous video, the other one would get a bit upset. But for Yasuo here, this is legit. This is not me like, you know, out of sympathy or something. Yasuo is here because he is now OP again. Because of the changes to your passive, where your shield scales linearly, so you're getting pretty much the same amount at various levels of a game, rather than it being just completely random, it looked like. What that pretty much means is you're getting more shield in the early game. That is unreal for a champion whose laning phase isn't the most amazing, but scales really well, right? Like the damage you deal, especially in this engage meta, of course, and I've said that for like every champion in this video, but it's really good for Yasuo, right? With a better laning phase, this allows you to get to that 1.33 Q second cooldown, and this allows you to dominate games again. This has been such a huge buff, and you can see Yasuo's win rate in close to 1,000 matches in Master Plus is over 51%, and his ban rate is also 13%. People clearly think in higher reloads that Yasuo is back on the menu as one of the most OP mid laners, and the stats are really backing that up. Now moving into the bot lane, we've only got one AD carrier, guys, so I know Kai'Sa got nerfed, the AP version of her, but if you want to play potentially an even better AP champion in the bot lane, I guess, well, AD carry wise anyway, this is AP Varus, right? So what you're going to be doing is going Hail of Blades with Static Shift, and then Nash's Tooth with Sorcerer's Shoes. This on-hit build is kind of cracked, almost like a budget Kai'Sa build, because with Kai'Sa the W spam, it's pretty obnoxious, right, and OP, but with Varus it's more about dealing consistent damage with your auto attacks and getting Static Shiv, Nash's Tooth, of course. You can maybe offer something like Lethal Tempo if you really think you're going to be able to stack that during team fights, but for the most part, with this engage meta, if you have something like a Rel, Nautilus, Alistar, Pyke, Thresh next to you in the bot lane, Hail of Blades lets you get your Blighted Quiver stacks off really quickly, detonate those with a Piercing Arrow, and you'll be dealing so much damage. That's why, well, you can still max your Q first, but maxing your W at later second is really important. So AP Varus in the bot lane, if you want to substitute maybe even a better champion for your Kai'Sa that got nerfed, this is definitely the one. Now the final champion to discuss in this video, guys, and if you have enjoyed it, please let us know by leaving a like down below. This is a support who loves playing against engage right and close range compositions, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't actually mentioned her in recent videos, because it's kind of like just gone under the radar, to be honest, this being Renata Glass. So with Renata, with Shurelya's, and then you can go Mikhail's Blessing if you want to, you can go Chemtech Putrefy, Ardent Sensor, even Redemption might be good later in the game, right? This is actually a really good setup, because the bot lane at the moment is so engagey, like I mentioned, right, where you've got champions like Nautilus picked in every single game. But yeah, against anything that jumps onto you, this champion does super well. I only think you should really be picking her though as a counter pick to those engaged supports. If you blind pick her, you will be versing stuff like Ashe, like Senna, stuff that just outranges you and you can never really touch them, and also because you have a pretty telegraphed ultimate, it's difficult to play against. Maybe even banning Braum is good because he can block your thing right with his Unbreakable. So think about that in your games, guys, but having Renata in your pocket to counter the enemy team, and not just their bot lane, but their entire team if they're really, like dive heavy and engagey. Great pickup. So those were the 10 OP builds, guys, for 13-15. Hopefully there are some well, not curveballs in here, but some setups you might not have thought I'd include. Any thoughts, leave them down below. Any questions about the builds, of course, and I will see you on our next Season 13 upload. This has been Coach Cheeks. Peace.